Hi everyone, I'm Chef Susie with Agave Online, and today we're going to be exploring our sweet tooth, and we're going to be talking about some sugars and their effects in baking and different types of sugars and how they're made too. So knowing that, let's get started. So sugar really doesn't have any dietary value to us. It just gives us a lot of energy, and it tastes good too, and it makes all of our baked goods taste good, and I think that's why we all like it. And sugar adds tenderness and moisture to our baked goods, and it also helps form crusts with browning, such as in our cookies, like our chocolate chip cookies and our Viennese butter cookies. And it also helps form crusts on cakes and things to give them some structure. And it also brings up the temperature in our baked goods. It helps the temperature rise, which helps set the gluten. So it's really, really instrumental in the volume of our cakes especially. And sugar also aids in the absorption of air when you're whipping your meringues or even your butters and sugars. Those little airs are sticking to the crystals in the sugar. So besides tasting good, and it makes our baked goods have a nice golden brown color, it does a lot of things on the inside while it's in the oven and being mixed too, when our mixes are being mixed too, that we're not even always aware of. So besides loving sugar for a lot of reasons, we have to give it credit in the structure of our baked goods too. So first we're going to talk about the most popular kinds of sugar, which are the white sugars, the granulated, the castor, and the powdered sugar, and our brown sugars. Those are our most popular sugars, and those are typically made from cane sugar or beet sugar. And they're both very similar, and you would probably never even taste the difference, and they're pretty similar in price. Sometimes cane sugar can be a little bit more expensive. And the reason that beet sugar came into the equation, first we were using cane sugars, and cane is grown kind of in a tropical, subtropical area, so it's a little more specialized and limited, whereas beets can be grown pretty much anywhere, especially throughout the US. And one of the big differences with cane sugar is it has a lower melting point, whereas if you're going to be making some sugar on the stove, it's going to melt a little bit faster for you. And also, it doesn't foam like beet sugar is known for foaming if you're making some sugar on the stove. And cane sugar is also known for not absorbing any strange odors, which beet sugar might. And keep in mind, if you're reading your label and it doesn't say cane sugar, then it's not. It'll always say pure cane sugar. If you're not seeing that on the label, you can assume that it's beet sugar. I like using both. I don't see a really big difference in most of my baking, so they're pretty interchangeable, and you probably would never even notice a difference unless I pointed it out to you. So in the process of making sugar, the cane or the beets, they're just pressed and pressed and pressed, and then this liquid forms. And for the white sugar, all this liquid is extracted, and the pure white sugar that we're seeing is even bleached. And I have some organic sugar, and this is before it's bleached. It's less refined, and it has a little bit of like a cream color to it, which is perfect for baking. And we have a question.
Where do I buy peach sugar?
Where do you buy what?
Peach sugar?
Peach sugar. The question is, where do you buy peach sugar? And I've not seen it. I would imagine it would be available in the state of Georgia, the peach state. And maybe if someone maybe could hear me really good, if you're thinking it's beet sugar. And beet sugar is readily available everywhere. It's in your granulated sugar. Unless it says pure cane sugar, then it's going to be beet sugar. So back to our granulated sugar. So our super white granulated sugar, that's bleached. And then our organic sugar, which is unbleached, is going to have this creamy color. It's fine for baking. You might notice a difference in your icings, like maybe your meringue is going to be a little bit off, but if it's something that you like to use, you'll be fine with it. And then we have our white powdered sugar, which is ground to the fine powder stage, and you can even make your own powdered sugar in the grinder. Remember when we did the Viennese butter cookies and we put the granulated sugar in the grinder to make castor sugar, which is super fine sugar? you can take that one step further in your grinder and actually make powdered sugar. So try it. It's kind of fun. It'll be a good experiment for you. And you can add things to that too. I like to add some lavender to mine, and you grind it up finely and you can make a little bit of lavender meringue. So that's just a suggestion for the summertime coming up. So these white sugars, the molasses is extracted from them completely. That's why they're so pure white. Whereas our brown sugar, which is another very popular sugar in baking, it adds the acidity, which we talked about last week, which is needed for our baking soda to activate that. In the brown sugar, it's unrefined. It's sugar like in its pure state. And it has all the molasses in it, which keeps it soft, and it can even be kind of sticky at times. So your brown sugar, you've got to keep it covered. You have to keep it in an airtight container. And if it gets hard on you, it's no big deal. You can bring it back so easily. There's little terracotta stones for keeping brown sugar soft that you can buy, and you soak them in water. You put them in the bag overnight. Your brown sugar is soft again. Try it sometimes. It's super fun. It's really neat because it can be as hard as a rock the day before. You put something in there like this terracotta stone. You can put a slice of apple. You can even put a little maybe damp paper towel if you don't have anything, and a marshmallow will work too. So don't throw away that hard brown sugar. It's still good. It just needs a little bit of moisture to it. And we have another question.
What do they bleach it with?
The question is, what do they bleach the sugar with? I'm not exactly sure the name. I can let you know, but it's a safe, food-safe bleaching agent, probably similar to what they use for flour. A lot of our foods that you're seeing, like your flours and your sugars that are pure white, that's not natural at all. That's completely bleached. So I'll get the chemical name for that, and I'll put it on the post for you, okay? So back to our sugars. So we've got all kinds of sugars besides these most popular ones that I was just talking about. We have the turbinado sugar, which is raw sugar, which is this one here. It's not as moist and sticky as your brown sugar. It's more of in a granule state, but it's still got the molasses in it. It's got that nice brown color. And when you see these browner colors with these molasses, the molasses still in these sugars, they're going to kind of have a different flavor to them too. This is going to kind of be like a little bit of a rich caramely flavor almost. So the turbinado sugar is partially refined, and this is great for making crunchy toppings with. You'll sometimes see this in streusel recipes, and you can also use it in your coffees and teas, and it's super nice. And they make cube sugar out of this as well as with the white sugar. So this is really nice. All these sugars are great. Can't go wrong with sugar. I think that's something we can all come together on. So we've got our turbinado sugar. So another sugar, which is, we're going to kind of get away from the cane and beet sugars for a minute. Another sugar is our honey. It's a natural state sugar. It's one of the very first sweeteners. And keep in mind, when you're using honey, it's an inverted sugar, which means it browns really easy. It's going to smoke really easy. If you're making like a honey caramel on the stove, keep a close eye on it. Anytime you have something with honey, or if you're making a coating for nuts or something, that's going to brown much faster than a regular sugar or a cane sugar. So keep that in mind. And we have another question.
Actually, we have two questions.
Okay, we have two questions.
How long do you pulse granulated sugar to produce castor sugar than a powdered sugar?
Okay, the question is pulsing the granulated sugar into the castor sugar and then into the powdered sugar. It really depends on your equipment and the size of it, what you're using. So just keep an eye on it. I just, pulse it once or twice, then I'll open it up, take a look at it. Don't stick your finger in there because it's equipment that you have plugged in. You never know. It could have a chunk of something stuck in there. Always stick a spoon in and you can kind of check it. And if it looks like it's getting finer, you're okay for your super fine sugar. And then just keep pulsing it and you're going to see it turn to powdered sugar before your eyes. It's like super cool. You'll just love it. So have some fun with your sugar. Play around a little bit. And if you have some lavender, some dried lavender from your garden, put it in your powdered sugar and make your meringue with that, and try it on your key lime pie or even your lemon meringue pie, and you will dazzle your friends and family. They will be completely impressed with you. So let me know how that goes. So back to our sugars. There's just so many. And if I've forgotten anything today, because there are so many, just email me on bp.mentors.com. And also, if you have any questions too, just send me an email. I'd love to hear from you. Okay? So back to our sugars. So our honey we talked about, natural state. Keep in mind it browns really fast. So then we have our maple syrup, which is typically a product of Canada and Vermont in the US, but you can find maple trees pretty much all over the world in certain climates. So this maple syrup is extracted from the tree, and it's also dehydrated to make maple sugar. This is a little bit more expensive than your regular sugars. You can buy it in a small container like this, or a little bit bigger bag like 8 ounces or 1 pound. But if you can, try a little container. It has a wonderful flavor to it, and it's completely pure maple sugar made from maple syrup. So this is really neat. It's great for like breakfast items, and it just adds a really nice flavor. Maple is a little bit different flavor than just our regular sugars and our unrefined sugars that are caramelized. So give this a try, and we have another question.
Is using brown sugar a better, or is using brown better option on a regular day-to-day basis than using white sugar? And also, what's the difference between a light brown and a dark brown sugar?
Okay, we have a couple of questions. One is, what's the difference between light brown sugar and dark brown sugar? The dark brown sugar has more molasses in it than the light brown sugar. And you can even easily make your own brown sugar if you're at home, you're baking, you're in a pinch, you don't want to go to the store, it's snowing, raining, whatever. You can take your regular granulated sugar, and if you have molasses, you can add it into your sugar, and there you have brown sugar, which is exactly the opposite way that it's made when it's produced or refined in the factory. The molasses is taken out and you're just putting it back in. So that's another fun thing that you can do at home by yourself. Give it a try. You can put it on your mixer, or you can just put the sugar in the bowl with the molasses and just rub it in your hands, and it's really neat. It's going to come to life before your eyes, and if you store it in a container, it's actually going to stay softer longer. And we had another question.
Yeah.
Oh.
What can you add a coffee bean or two for coffee powdered sugar?
The question is, can you add a coffee bean or two to make a coffee flavored powdered sugar? I would say go ahead and try it. I haven't done it, but I'm certain that it would work. You might have to pulse it a little bit longer. Maybe tap that coffee bean a little bit and break it up before you put it in there so you're not over pulsing the powdered sugar. But I would say definitely give it a try. Have some fun with this powdered sugar. If you're pulsing it anyway, you may as well be adding an herb or something to it. So keep all of that in mind. And we had another question, is it better to be eating or using brown sugar on a day-to-day basis rather than a white sugar? I would think, you're a pastry chef, I'm not your doctor, but I would think using something that's less refined on a regular basis would probably be better for you. But they both have their uses, and they definitely have their uses in baking. And like anything, everyone's like, oh, sugar is so bad for you. Yeah, anything is bad, too much of it. But I think anything in moderation is just fine. You wouldn't want to eat chocolate chip cookies for 4 meals a day, although it sounds good, but you probably wouldn't feel so good. So keep that moderation in mind too. So back to our sugars. So we talked about our maple sugars. Now we're going to talk about something completely different, which is the stevia plant. And the stevia it's a plant that has sweet leaves, and it's processed. And if you want some more in-depth information, you can go to stevia.com, and there's a lot of information out there just by Googling stevia. And it's actually 300 times more sweet than regular granulated sugar. So if you're going to substitute stevia for granulated sugar, it's going to be 1 teaspoon for actually 1 cup of sugar, which is really kind of a neat thing because you're going to use less of it and it's a pure plant base. So check out stevia for some more information on that. And then we have another plant-based sugar, which is agave nectar. And this is something that's really neat. This that I have here is a blue agave nectar, and that's just a different, there's an agave plant and there's a blue agave plant. This is completely plant-based nectar, and it's got all the minerals from the plant in it too. And this too is very sweet. It's sweeter than honey. You can substitute this in your recipes. It's in a liquid form, and you would use, for 1 cup of sugar, you'd use 2/3 a cup of the agave, and then you're also going to cut back a little bit on the water because you're adding some water to your mixture. So this is really cool. This is the same stuff, that same plant that tequila is made from, and it doesn't taste like tequila, but it definitely has a unique, distinct flavor. I recommend trying it. It's known for healthful sweetening of your baked goods. So check it out, and you can just you can always go to agave.com to get some more information about this agave. So like I said, this is a blue agave from the blue agave plant, and these leaves from this plant are they're like fermented for like 7 to 14 years, and the sugars are broken down from complex sugars to simple sugars, and that's how these syrups are made. And this one is also in the raw state. It's a little bit darker, and you can get these in a little bit of a lighter color too, and those are a little bit more refined. So once again, it's the same thing. It's in its raw state, and then it's in its more refined state. So definitely check this out. You can find this in a lot of stores, and you can even buy stuff like this online. And I didn't mention too, the stevia comes in a liquid form too, as well as a powder. And we have a question.
Can we caramelize stevia like regular white sugar, or is there a high risk of burning it immediately?
We have a question on the stevia, and I'm really not sure. We would have to check on their website because it's not something that I have tried. The question is, can you caramelize the stevia as you would regular granulated sugar like your cane sugar? And my best guess would be no. I haven't tried it, but let's check it out on their website, and I'll make a post for you, okay? And keep in mind, you can Google these 2 items. There's more in-depth information. There's more nutritional value, and you can, decide if it was something for you. But definitely check it out. Some unique flavors. So let's go on to another type of sugar. This is a coconut sugar, and this is made pressing the coconut the same way that you're going to be pressing the cane. And you can put this in your baked goods. You can substitute it for regular granulated sugar. It's brown, but it's very it's dry. It's not like brown sugar, sticky and wet and moist. So you can definitely substitute this for the nutritional value from the coconut, and it's going to give it a nice flavor, and it's going to kind of give it a little bit of your baked goods a rustic look if they're lighter in color. So try the coconut flour too. I like this. It smells really good. It smells like toasted coconut. It's like all ground up. So this is a neat thing too. And I found a lot of these things at Whole Foods, and you can find them online too. So next we're going to talk about an artificial sweetener, but we've got a question.
What about beet, not beet, but beet molasses? Can I use it instead of dark brown sugar?
Beet molasses. We have a question on beet molasses instead of dark brown sugar, and I'm thinking that it's going to work, but I'll check that out too. So I'm going to have to make a couple of posts from our webcast today. So back to our sugars. The next sugar that we're going to talk about is actually a sugar substitute, and it's Splenda. And in the powdered form, you can substitute 1 cup of Splenda for 1 cup of sugar, but this is another specialty thing, so check out their website at splenda.com for some more information. Splenda is a great sugar substitute. You're going to be using it in your healthful and special needs baking course, which is at the end. You're going to be making a blueberry muffin with it, which is really nice. So it's something to become familiar with, especially if you're going to be having your own shop or if you're selling baked goods. You're probably always going to have someone that's looking for a sugar-free dessert. So become familiar with Splenda. You'll like it. It doesn't have a bad aftertaste at all. And for a sugar-free substitute, I definitely recommend Splenda. So we're going to get ready to wrap up today about our little segment on sugars, and please let me know if you have any questions. But before we go, we're going to talk about cooking sugar on the stove. So there's a few ways that you can cook sugar on the stove. You can use a wet method, which is mixing the sugar with water, or you can caramelize the sugar just putting dry sugar in a pan on the stove. Don't put your flame too high, otherwise you'll be making smoke signals for everyone. It's going to burn around the sides. And keep in mind when you're cooking your sugar, your dry sugar on the stove and caramelizing it, use a wooden spoon. It's always my favorite for doing that because it's not going to heat up on you. Well, eventually if you leave it on the side of a pot, it's going to get hot, but it's not going to heat up like a metal spoon, and it's not going to do any scratching, and it's really good for breaking up those lumps. And when you do the wet method with the sugar and water, always be sure with both methods that your equipment is completely clean, because if you have any debris in your pot or on your spoon, like flour or anything like that, it's got a lower burn temperature than the sugar. So the sugar is going to keep melting and cooking, and if you have these little debris in there, they're going to start burning on you, and you're going to see like little specks, and it can even crystallize and seize your sugar mixture. And we have a question.
What is the difference between organic sugar and regular sugar?
What's the difference between organic sugar and regular sugar? It's the way it's grown. It's organically grown. They're not using pesticides on the plants, and considered more safe for eating. It's usually a little bit more expensive, and a lot of times the organic sugar, you'll see it's like unbleached. This is unbleached sugar. This is actually organic sugar. So it's same rule of thumb as plants and your vegetables, your fruits and vegetables. When they're organic, that means that's how they're grown, with pesticide free and a little bit safer to eat. So back to our sugar, cooking sugar on the stove. Like I said, be sure there's no debris in your pot. There's not any like little flour or anything stuck in there. And this is another reason that you're going to want to be careful not to get any of your flour in your granulated sugar, because if you accidentally you're using like a scoop or something and you have like a teaspoon of flour in there, it gets mixed up in your granulated sugar, that's going to affect your caramel that you're going to be making with that maybe the next day or in the future. So try to keep your sugars clean of flour debris, because when you're caramelizing, it's going to make a huge difference. And also when you're doing the wet caramelization with the sugar, you're going to want to wash down the sides of the pot. So you have your sugar and your water mixture, and you're going to bring that up to whatever temperature, if you're making softball, hard crack, whatever temperature you're working with. And you're going to want to wash down the sides of the pot to make sure that no sugar granules are forming, because they'll eventually drop into the mix, and that's going to cause the whole thing to crystallize, and it can even seize up on you. So keep all that in mind when you're making your wet and dry sugar mixtures. And the dry sugar mixtures, the caramelization, those are usually used for decorations or sometimes for coating nuts and things. And your wet mixtures are a lot of times used for making caramel. So you're going to want to make sure that you have a good thermometer when you're cooking sugar on the stove, because the temperature is the key. I like to use the digital thermometer, and I put my probe in my pot and I just keep an eye on it. And what's nice too is a lot of the digital thermometers, they have timers on them. If you set it for your temperature, your 230 degrees, it's going to beep when you reach 230 and let you know. So that's a really nice feature. You can buy those at a lot of kitchen stores. I bought a nice one at Bed Bath & Beyond, and I think I paid about $19 for it, and I've had it for years, and I just love it. And it's nice too because it's got a magnet on the bottom. If you're in a commercial kitchen, you know how the stainless steel front on the stove is right there that you're going to put your thermometer on. It's not going to go anywhere if you accidentally bump it. It's not going to fall off. It's got a little magnet. So keep that in mind. That's a little tip on a little kitchen tool. So we're going to get ready to wrap up. Please email me at bp.mentors.com if you have any questions on sugar. I'll be posting answers to the questions that I couldn't answer. And I hope that you have a great day. Thanks for joining me. Be in touch. Let me know how you're doing, and we'll see you next week.